The HOA told me to take down my American flag, or pay hundreds of dollars in fines. They said it didn't belong. They said it ruined the neighborhood. Pause, softer, emotional. But to me, that flag is family. My brother's sacrifice. My father's pride. My grandfather's courage. Rising intensity. So when they banned my flag, I didn't give in. Dramatic beat. I turned my entire house into a flag. And what happened next shook the whole country. I grew up in a small town where the American flag meant more than just colors on a piece of cloth. For me, it was family. My grandfather had fought in World War II. My father had served in Vietnam. My brother had given his life in Afghanistan. Every fold, every stripe, every star, it carried the blood, sweat, and sacrifice of the people I loved. So when I bought my home in a quiet neighborhood governed by a strict law, the first thing I did was install a sturdy flagpole in my front yard. Every morning, I raised the flag with pride. Every evening, I lowered it with reverence. Neighbors would smile, children would salute, it felt right. Until the letter came. Dear resident, it began coldly. As per HOA regulations, no flags are allowed to be displayed in the neighborhood other than those approved by the board. I laughed at first, thinking it was a mistake. Surely, they couldn't mean the American flag. But when I called the HOA office, the woman on the phone didn't even hesitate. Sir, you'll need to remove the flag within 7 days or face a fine of $200 per day. My chest tightened. This isn't just decoration, it's my family's sacrifice. Her voice was flat. Rules are rules. We don't want the neighborhood to look divided. Divided by the very flag that unites us. I hung up, stunned, heart pounding. The next day, I noticed people staring at my house differently. Some neighbors whispered, others avoided eye contact. The HOA had spread the word, I was now a troublemaker. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't take down the flag that carried my brother's memory. So, they fined me. Day after day, the letters stacked up. $200, $400, $600. It was crushing me financially, but even worse, it was crushing my soul. One night, standing in the yard, looking up at that flag waving softly in the breeze, tears welled in my eyes. I whispered to my brother's memory, they want me to take you down. But I won't. Not ever. And in that moment, I knew. If the HOA wanted a fight, I wasn't just going to resist, I was going to turn my grief into something bigger. Something they could never ignore. I started sketching late at night, a notebook open at my kitchen table. What if the HOA said no to one flag? What if I gave them 1,000? The idea came slowly at first, then exploded like fireworks in my mind. If they hated the flag so much, then I would make my entire house a flag. The next morning, I drove to the hardware store. I bought paint, gallons of deep red, bright white, and pure blue. When the cashier raised an eyebrow, I just smiled. Big project. Neighbors watched as I began painting. First, I covered one side of my house in bold red and white stripes. Then, the other in the same pattern. Finally, across the front wall, I painted a massive blue square with 50 shining stars. Every brushstroke was a rebellion. Every line of paint was a promise. My house was no longer just a home, it was becoming a monument. Children from down the block started coming by after school. Mister, can we help? One little boy asked, holding a tiny paintbrush. His father had served overseas. His mother wiped her eyes as she watched him dip the brush into white paint and carefully drag it across the siding. Soon, families joined in. Veterans from the neighborhood came to shake my hand. You're doing what we can't, one said. You're fighting here at home. But the HOA wasn't pleased. They stormed to my door, 3 board members in pressed suits and sour expressions. The president, a thin man with sharp glasses, waved a paper in my face. You're in violation of Code 14.7. Exterior paint must be neutral tones only. Beige, gray, or light brown. I stood tall, paintbrush still in hand. This house belongs to me. And it belongs to my family's sacrifice. You can fine me all you want, but you won't silence me. The man sneered. You'll regret this. Maybe. But as I looked back at my nearly finished masterpiece, I felt no regret. Only pride. By the end of the week, the house was complete. From the sidewalk, it looked like the flag itself had risen up and wrapped around my home. At night, I set up spotlights to illuminate it, so no one could miss it. It wasn't just paint, it was defiance. It was love. It was justice. The HOA took me to court. They thought their rules were ironclad. They thought their money and lawyers would bury me. But what they didn't count on was the community. When my case went public, something incredible happened. Veterans groups showed up to support me. Families who had lost loved ones in service stood by my side. The local news covered the story, then national media picked it up. Suddenly, it wasn't just about me, it was about every American who had been told they couldn't fly the flag. In court, the HOA's lawyer droned on about uniform appearances and property values. But when my turn came, I held up a folded flag, the same one that had draped my brother's coffin. "This," I said, voice trembling, "is not decoration. This is the price of freedom. If you tell me I can't honor my family, then you're not protecting property values, you're spitting on sacrifice." The room was silent. Even the judge leaned forward, eyes heavy with emotion. When the ruling came, my knees nearly buckled. The HOA does not have the authority to ban the display of the American flag. The fines are dismissed. The homeowner retains the right to paint his property in the design of the flag. I won. Outside the courthouse, reporters crowded around me. Microphones shoved toward my face. "How does it feel?" one asked. I smiled, tears streaking down my cheeks. "It feels like my brother can finally rest easy. It feels like freedom still means something." Back in the neighborhood, something even more beautiful happened. One by one, houses began sprouting flags. First a few, then dozens. Driveways lined with poles. Windows draped in stars and stripes. The HOA couldn't stop it anymore, the people had taken back their voice. That 4th of July, my street was unrecognizable. Fireworks lit the sky, kids waved sparklers, families gathered in front yards. And at the center of it all, my house stood tall, glowing red, white, and blue. I looked up at it, feeling my brother beside me, hearing my father's proud whisper, seeing my grandfather's smile. The HOA had tried to silence me. Instead, they gave me a reason to shout louder. Because sometimes, justice isn't about revenge, it's about love. Love for country. Love for family. Love for freedom. And as the flag rippled across the face of my home, I knew one thing for certain: they could never take that love away.